Welcome to Moving with Life. This is episode number 22. I am Andy Acosta. My friend Brian Luevanos will be joining me today. Listeners, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for lending us your ears. Don't forget to subscribe. We are on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and YouTube. So episode number 22, we take somewhat of a different direction. I felt in order to bring value to you, the listener, we needed to adapt just a little bit. So I scoured the internet, I scoured YouTube, and ended up still falling upon some questions that were given by Tim Ferriss that he's asked throughout various interviews and even asked himself at some point. So we dive into those questions. You'll get to hear about our long-term goals, short-term goals. Maybe now you can start thinking about your own long-term and short-term goals. You'll get some insight on our experience so far as 25-year-old millennials. You know, I've worked retail and music. Brian's worked banking, finance. You know, he's moving into entrepreneurship as the days go by. So you'll be able to get some more insight on us, and you'll be able to then get some questions that maybe you can answer for yourself and see what direction you want to head into. So without further ado, here is Moving with Life. What are you saying about this weekend?
I'm excited. I'm excited for it. See some cool people in a very cool place.
Lucky.
Yeah, man. Well,
I say lucky, but I just...
Yeah, someone else told... Oh, that coworker, she's like, lucky. I was like, well, I mean, it's been planned. It's not luck.
And you can go. Like, you know,
yeah,
like,
you can go
like
whenever.
Anybody can go. I mean, as long as you
yeah.
save the money. It's so funny. I just say lucky just because... I guess more of like, it's awesome that you're going. That's a better word. You know, it's interesting enough, you know, using terminology in slang fashion, and everything's getting more slang. So then if you think about the original definition, then you might sound, well, no, it might, okay, would it be PC to use the exact definition or slang?
I don't know, man.
That just occurred to me right now, because I prefer now, especially now after like just reading and like using certain definitions so that I don't get confused with people. Like I make sure to ask them like, okay, what do you mean, in case in case it's a word that in this case, you know what we're talking about, where it's like, okay, lucky, you know, is that like, could someone really mean that, you know, like it's cool that you're going, like, you know, or, and I would say there's probably cases where it's like, no, they really think you're the luckiest person in the world, which is fine, I guess.
That's fine.
But again, mine, when I think about it, I'm like, wait, I just said lucky. I'm like, why did I say lucky? And it's like, well, that's not the proper word, you know?
No, I think that's just like the connotative meaning, or not meaning, but that's just the way we use it. And, you know, we know it's not what you mean, but
right,
for some reason it's just socially acceptable.
And habitual, too. It's like, oh, you're so lucky. You hear somebody else say, oh, you're so lucky. It's like, it kind of reminds me of like a couple times that me and you have like been texting or whatever, and I'll say precisely, and then you think like something similar, and all you think to respond back is precisely.
Exactly.
It might be one of those. It's not for sure not a Freudian slip, but it's something like in the same like angle where you say something that because it's already been filtered in your seed.
Influenced.
You know, exactly. You're already prematurely influenced, I guess you could say. Oh. Dude, I finally got Alpha Brain. Oh, dude, it's been like a month because I just haven't bought it.
I've been off of it for a while too.
I haven't allocated the funds to get another set of Alpha Brain, and today I was like, I was doing all my budgeting as best I could, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go buy some Alpha Brain today. And also because I will have to say that it affects my thinking process the most when we're podcasting. Yeah, because even like, it may not sound like it on the final version, and even through my first listen of the edits, like it sounds better than when we're actually in the room. Like like last week, I feel like last week I stumbled too much, I thought. Again and again, when I listened back on Tuesday, I was like, this isn't terrible. I mean, it's not bad, you know, whatever. and even combining, like, it actually didn't take a lot. Like, there wasn't, while there was space, in some spaces, in some pieces, there wasn't any like big glitches in like the content. Like, it still, like, I feel like flowed really well,
Right.
which is interesting. And I know how I remember how lately I've been telling you, like, I'm trying to find like just, I would want to say a better formula for the podcast as far as content, because sometimes, and more lately, because even, I mean, Eddie's not here today. It's only me and you, and this is the second week in a row because, you know, Eddie's busy. He's going on about his stuff, so we don't always have, quote unquote, the content to have just a full blown like Joe Rogan style conversation.
Right.
So I've literally been like listening to like one new piece of information every day, like one piece. Like, I think I did some Tony Robbins last week, which had this recording been last week, it would have been Tony Robbins. This week it's changing. I did mention some stuff by Tony Robbins, but anyways, so I did some Tony Robbins, which led me to Jim Rohn, which I don't know if you've heard of Jim Rohn. Jim, and then Rohn is Rohn, which is pretty much Tony Robbins' mentor. So we're like, this is a comparison that I gave you, like, you know, where I'm taking a lot of tools from Tony Robbins and some different people. Well, Jim Rohn's one of the guys that Tony Robbins took from. And if you listen to Jim Rohn talk about certain things, total sense. And it's cool because even now I've already found some like various nuances that Tony's kind of made his own. Like, I guess an example I could give was Jim Rohn talked about in this certain piece that I was listening to. He talked about creating goals, right?
Okay.
And writing them down, planning. Planning was the main thing. And it was interesting how just before this particular video, I then listened to Tony Robbins talk about RPM, which I mentioned RPM, which it stands for Rapid Planning Method, right? And one of the main things that Tony focuses on his method is bringing emotion into it. Now, Jim Rohn talks about emotion, but he doesn't exaggerate it the way Tony Robbins does. He only says you need to make a plan. You need to have, you need to have your ducks, basically ducks in line.
Mm-hmm.
You know, here's one quote that I did write down. I wrote this down this morning. So, setting goals is plain hard work. That's why a lot of people just let it slide. It's work. Many people work hard on their job, but they don't work hard on their future. They just let that slide. And the work included is making plans. I know most people don't. I understand that, but don't let that be you. So his thing is like having that, making a visual picture in essence, writing down. And it makes sense to me because I know whenever I do write down, and I know we've said it, and I say it still now, is being consistently inconsistent. And it's been a while since I've thought about that term.
Story of my life.
Right, and that's exactly how I feel too, and it's still true to this day. And like it's interesting now because people are starting to say, "Hey, man," like they think, well, in essence, they think I have my shit together,
Right.
and like maybe I do, but I still find things that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, when Jim Rohn talks about this, where some people let it slide and they don't, and especially now I'm seeing some people like transition through jobs. They're changing jobs, whether it's an upgrade or just like maybe parallel, but just a different job because they're not liking their job right now, so they're going to a new job. And it's like, and especially for the people that are making more money, and I'm scared to ask them what they're saving that extra money for, because right now the answer is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my assumption, but I can assume I'm like 90% right. Because it's like, oh, I have more money. Okay, now what are you gonna do with it? And it's not it's hard work just to plan, And of course, like Tony Robbins takes it to another level. Tim Ferriss takes it to another level. Which we're gonna get to Tim Ferriss, which is why these questions are up. People can't see them, but we'll get into these questions that I have posted up on the screen. Mm-hmm. Side note, it seems like if this works out with the screen and stuff, hopefully start taking actual video through and then it's gonna be a whole different element that I'll talk about later. I don't want to get too distracted. But anyways, so from Jim Rohn to Tony Robbins, where the physicality of writing down goals is Jim Rohn's priority, physical, and then Tony Robbins incorporates the emotional part, which makes sense because you have a soul and then you have your physical being. So to me, it makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. So anyways, moving forward, let's just move forward. So, inconsistently consistent and trying to find the right movement of this podcast. Because at some point, one thing that I did come to a conclusion was that because we're 25, I feel like for the podcast, we've already talked about all that we can talk about. To where now we need to start, or at least on the podcast, start exploring new things. And I started it starting this week is writing down, finding something that I'm interested in, and either developing my own questions from it, or literally finding questions that are out on the internet that other people can find that maybe you haven't thought about, I haven't thought about, and if they're relevant now, and I'm interested to see what answers we get from me and you, because for one, it'll give people little insight on our way of thinking, and then in a year, in 2 years, we get to look back and listen to this.
It's changed.
Yeah, and see how it's changed. And there's actually some stuff in here that I also incorporate change. So now I listen to, of course, the Tony Robbins video I talked about, which is RPM. Then Jim Rohn talking about planning. And the title of it is Why to Keep Your Goals a Secret. And it's interesting because nowhere in like the 12 minutes of this video of Jim Rohn did he say, oh, you should keep your secrets because. He just gives you a load of information and then you go about. So I'm curious as to why it was titled that, but that's what the title was.
You know what's interesting? You bringing up you're planning your goals. And I don't remember if I watched this. I don't think so. But recently I saw on Tim Ferriss's Instagram feed, he posted a TED Talk about why it's important to define your fears versus your goals. And I don't think I've watched it, but I think I can determine that it's important to define your fears because fears are, what hold you back the most. So it's important to know what those are and how to like overcome them, I think.
Yeah.
I'll probably go back and watch it.
Absolutely.
But I thought it was just interesting that I had seen that earlier today and then you bringing up goals.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's I think he just posted about that too, right? Like on his social media and stuff.
I don't know.
The TED
I
Talk,
only saw that on Instagram earlier when I was
Wait, was it
scrolling
like
through.
today?
I saw it today.
Okay, then it is. We're thinking about the same piece because he's posted it on all social media, and I saw it. I know exactly what you're talking about. I have yet to watch it also because I'm scared of how long it might be. And usually TED Talks aren't that long, like 30 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes. Like
Depending.
Jocko's was like 15. It was like quick and sweet. Yeah, it was super quick and sweet. It was not long at all. That I can remember. It wasn't long at all because I remember watching it in one sitting and half of it's stuff I already know. I know, that I'm trying to help. And
I feel like you just know Jocko.
Yeah. It's like, right. Honestly, like, it's like, man, I know that the day I get to meet him, I'm going to shake his hand like, we're buddies. Because I'll probably tell him too, like, dude, whenever this leaves, which I'm hoping for next year, 2018, I'm like, dude, I've been listening to you for 2 years now. So it's like, yeah, I do feel like I know you. I use these tools for myself and it works. And ultimately it starts with yourself. The extreme ownership, the title, extreme ownership. Start with yourself and build out. So let's get into some questions. I'm curious because I hope that some questions pop out the way they popped out to me. I hope they pop out to you. So one thing that Jim Rohn talks about is how your planning should involve economics, things you want, and that includes everything, big and small. He says he used to write down things, houses, cars, bigger things that he wanted. And he says, in the time of this interview / speech, he says he wrote down everything. And one reason is that lets you have a checklist to mark off. And the way I thought about it was it's like having likes on Facebook or social media. So the more likes you get, the more check marks you get, that you get stuff accomplished. Yeah. Then you naturally get you should naturally get some dopamine, a little dopamine hit because you're check. Right, now I've started making my list since Saturday, and I have some X's because obviously Saturday I didn't get back home till Sunday morning, so like my weekend was totally twisted, but for the better. The stuff that I was able now to let me continue this. So he says when you don't check stuff off though, there should be real consequences. Right. My consequence is that I can't gain back that time. Right? So that's my ultimate consequence that I'm trying to make solidified. Now, if I ever feel like I can like waive that, then I need to find a consequence. For now, time is working, right? So anyways, he talked about things big and small, all things, materialistic things, anything, because then he goes into personal development
Mhm.
and what goals you want for yourself, and those include like skills for work, skills for relationships, the stuff I think we have touched on periodically on this podcast. So he mentioned those three macro things that you need to do, and he says the most important one's economic, because that does include um, your it's profit, income, and production. Like how productive are you, in the sense of, I would say, a monetary production. You know, how, like, what are you doing? Are you where you want to be? I guess that would
Right.
be the ultimate thing, right?
Mhm.
So one of the questions that he asked, he's like, what are my, for the long term, long range? He calls them long range goals. He says, what are my dreams for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, for the rest of your life? That should be one of the questions you want to answer, and put everything. If you want a Maserati, write down you want a Maserati, right? And let that be a long term goal, because depending on your financial situation, that's how long it's going to take you anyways.
Right. Where you are and where you need to be.
Right. So my question is, have your dreams changed since graduating college? And then adding on to that, which is another, this is a Jim Rohn question. What do you want to see? What's a physical place you want to see? What do you want to see from yourself? What do you want to see in the future? And what do you want to see from your family or for your family? So, before you answer, the reason why I asked since graduating college is because that's all we've accomplished up until now. Because we're in our transition right now.
Yeah.
At least that's my opinion of, what you want to do with your career, your bulk career. Right now we're in the beginnings. We're nowhere near the brink of anything yet.
Mhm.
That's my opinion.
No. Yeah.
And so that was my question that I developed. If you can think right now, have your dreams changed since graduating college? Have they moved in any way? And if you could give like maybe a specific example that you can think of, maybe quickly.
They definitely have. As far as when right before graduating and shortly after graduation, I just wanted to work for like a big like accounting firm. Or just yeah, like a big accounting firm or like a big just a well-known company that would help me just grow, and that I could learn a lot of finance, accounting, industry stuff. And then I don't know if it was a lot more recently or I don't remember if it was closer to now or closer to graduation, but it's definitely changed. I'm thinking more like entrepreneurial. I want to have my own business or businesses and kind of create my own things. I Ever since I was little, I've liked to build things with my hands, build things myself, and that's kind of what I want to do now instead of working for like a bigger company or big four or Fortune 500 company.
Yeah,
Like now I want to do something myself. So it that's like the most noticeable dream that has changed.
I like that. For me, I know that at least for the previous 10 years, my dream was just to play music, right? And now that I've been playing music for 5 years live, um, I know I'm definitely transitioning where music is. I've said this. I'm hopefully people will have marked it where I've said where music is my career because I'm letting it be because I like it. It's not gonna take nothing's gonna take priority career wise, but I am now venturing into other things where even 5 years ago, all I thought I was gonna do for the rest of my life was music. Like, because you hear about, like, even today, they just released an article on Merle Haggard, and it's quote unquote the last song he ever recorded. It's called Kern something blues, like Kern Music Blues or something like that. Either way, it's KERN something and then blues. I'm pretty sure you can find it it's on YouTube now. And, the count is that he recorded, like, or at least wrote, like 4,000 songs in his lifetime and recorded over 1,000. Like he's one, and it's interesting because it makes sense because he's one of the guys that you'll find a tablature of records. You just find a mass amount of records, and cause that's all he wanted to do.
Right.
And he did that till the day he died. He died on his 80th birthday or something. Anyways, he died on his birth date, and he sang until he went. And at some point I thought that was me, and now that I'm thinking the way I do as far as leadership, and I told you and Eddie that Eddie was here when I told you guys about that moment in junior year when I said or thinking back to my junior year where I was the worst leader ever, and how I've kind of gotten back to that way of thinking.
Mhm.
And so with that in mind, that I thought about a year later, extreme ownership, and then now interacting at 9 round, not interacting more with us two as individuals, with my family, with the guys in the band, that like just helping everybody understand each other. And then for those who want to lead a system, like in your case, full on entrepreneur, where eventually you'll have employees, helping all those little things, helping all the little details.
Yeah.
And I have to say that's probably been the biggest change for me, is not knowing now where exactly I'm going. Where before it's like music, bus, tour for the rest of my life. If I get married, my wife's gonna have to deal with it. Oh well.
Right.
And like definitely transition. And I remember my dad saying, he's like, wait till you get a family, blah blah blah. And like, I understood that, but because I was raised with my dad in and out because of his job, it's like, well, just do the same. Like, it was a normal thing, it's normal for me. I grew up like that. Now, but I did also preach, and I will say preach because I do think that that should be around, right? At least more. So I knew that I wasn't going through that transition. I just didn't think it was gonna be like a career addition as opposed to maybe playing music more locally and then having a family, or something along the lines with where music is just the world, right? Music everything revolves.
You didn't think it would lead you, or it would involve a career change.
Right. Yeah. It's essentially a career change to where I'm gonna have, I would say, multiple careers. And of course Ty Lopez, all these guys talk about having multiple streams of income, and even a year ago to almost to the day, I remember talking with my buddy Matt from Matt and the Herdsman, and we were talking about streams of income. It was just like that, and by that time, that seed of multiple streams had already been in line. Now all I had was that answer. I didn't know how.
Yeah.
And like a year later, coming to today, and now that I'm talking with people from 9 round, and now we're doing more individual stuff. Like now I have a client that she only goes in, or she doesn't only go in when I'm there, but whenever I'm there, which is and I get to see her about 3 times a week, I only have her lifting. Now we're kickboxing, circuit training, all this stuff. We do a lot of interaction like that. But for her, whenever she sees me, it is more like a personal training. And I'm on the clock, so I'm not veering. I'm just giving her I'm giving her different stuff to do.
Right.
And that's one example. Yesterday, Sunday, I had a workout in the morning. I was beat. I was dead. I was beat to hell, dude. Had like an hour and a half of sleep. Anyways, so then I went to the gym, and we got there, and I started more of a conversation because I needed just to get my blood flowing because I just had very little, I had very little energy.
Right.
So we started going over goals and things that they wanted, because I started using RPM, rapid planning method, results, purpose, mapping, right? So I did that, and I really wish I would have found this method, 3 weeks ago, so I could have just started from the get-go and get them on a better path, but now we have 3 weeks, so that's the deal.
Yeah.
Either way, by the time I was done talking, we then worked out. I had them do some really basic movements, and both the clients that I worked with yesterday, they both say that with the stuff that I make them do on Sundays and Saturdays, that they get more sore than when they're in doing the actual circuit. And my answer to them, and what I'm saying on here, is that because I focus on the small body, the small muscles in your body.
Right.
When
the
you're
ones you don't usually
right,
use.
exactly. And because when you're lifting weights, you have to start with your primary muscles. Let's say you're doing curls and you're using your biceps. Well, until your biceps are developed, then you're not gonna feel anything in any other part of your arm, forearms or anything, or otherwise. Once your biceps get developed, then you will start feeling other things, and you start feeling like a weird like roundness feeling on your bicep, because you start feeling that cut. Where is it? That's where the cut's starting, right? That's where all those little grains of muscle are starting to develop. So my thing is push-ups, and so that was that. So anyways, so continuing, so we went through the talk, went through the workout. After, I then told them to watch RPM, that hour and a half, it's like an hour and 49 minutes. And I told them, don't get overwhelmed. Don't watch it all at once. I'm like, I did that, but it was a mistake because I had to watch it again. Because the first time I just went into it not knowing what it was about. I know what it's about, and this is what I recommend the way you should watch it because the stuff given on there is very helpful. And it's stuff that I had actually planned to do yesterday, but it just didn't work out right. Obviously, honestly, time's my consequence right now. So at the end when they were getting ready to leave, they're like, "Man, you should go to back to school for nutrition or like dietary stuff, and you should become a life coach." That's what they said. And I said, "The life coach thing, it seems like we're in progress of that. The going back to school thing, no." And now I have a better answer. If I go back to school now, that's still 2 years that I have to dedicate to the school and my grades, where I'm already doing personal development on my own. That's any extra time I have, right? Whatever extra time I have, that's what I'm doing.
Mhm.
If I go back to school, I won't be at 9 round as much. I'm like, I won't see you guys. I'm like, think about when you guys were in school. And one of the clients is about our age, and the other one's older, but they both been to college, right?
Mhm.
I'm like, so think about if you go back for your masters, what are you gonna have to give up to get your masters? Now you're not gonna like one of them has a family, one of them doesn't. So like you're gonna have to not give up your family, but maybe you have to give up working out for as much as you are working out. Like as much as you're used to, you then have to cut that short because you have to go to school, you have to go study, you have to get tests, you have to write papers, especially especially masters because you're putting a lot more context and theory, right? You're doing a lot more papers, a lot more hands-on stuff, which that's actually what I like about it. But I'm not willing to give that. But at least now I have an answer because in 5 years I would like my resume to have a list of things I've done, and for me it's not that school's a bad thing, but I don't want only that I've gone back to school. I just feel like at least that's the way I see it. That's the way I feel about going back to school right now. And it just took me a couple weeks to have an answer. I feel like a solid answer. Where before it was like I was thinking about money. Well, money's not a factor, And then I was thinking about me learning, like individual, like personal development. Because that's what I was doing, even a few months ago. Just that. And now I'm able to give out information where people are like taking stuff away from it, And anyways, excuse me. Just school, not I can't give time to school. I don't want to give time to school. It just ultimately is like the life coaching. I mean, if I learn enough stuff that I see that people don't know about that I know about now, then yeah, it's and I wouldn't at least for now I wouldn't even call it life coaching because I have two jobs that I like. I like being at 9 round and I like playing music. And then now the podcast and moving with life and andywalkerleads.com, which is coming. It's a website that I'm developing. With all that stuff going on in my personal life, along with the vlog, also the vlog, that's like, well, if I can just connect with the people here, one by one, because another answer to that is if I do it one by one, then I get to give them individual attention. And even last week when I said, talk to me now, like if you guys are listening online, like I just feel like right now I can give you some very good individual time, whereas later on, I'm booked. I'm scheduled for something, a meeting or something. So I guess that's just stuff that I'm not taking lightly, which then has also led to now these questions that we're trying to answer. That I've not come up with, but I've either gotten or then created sub questions and whatnot. So, dreaming, people should write down their dreams. That's what Jim Rohn says. That's what Tony Robbins says. That's what I'm saying. Because also one of the clients yesterday, she said, must be nice to be able to do whatever you want. I said, that's the luxury of having multiple part-time jobs, in essence. I'm like, because for now, while music is my full-time job, it gives me full-time pay at a part-time rate.
Gives you that flexibility.
Exactly. Flexibility of time. Right now, and Tim Ferriss says this on this, where I derived these questions from, that I have written up that we'll get to. But we're at, 20, post-college, and whenever you finish college, and this is if you finish college in 20, like if you go later, then the hustle is just different. It's not that it's harder or any like, the obstacles are generally the same, but it's just that you have to hustle quicker in between times. So anyways, so basically when you finish college until you're maybe just past 30, 35, leading to 40, Tim Ferriss says you have to make the most of your time, because the money. Because he doesn't even bring up experience. I'm trying to think of how he exactly says it. He says, when you're between post college to maybe 35, leading to your 40s, you have the luxury of time. So you need to use all your time to make monetary goals, to make, like going back to the dreaming and stuff, right? You have time to start developing a business or anything like that. That's what Tim Ferriss says. Because then, as long as you're doing that now and you're utilizing your time, as long as you're utilizing your time between, let's say, 22 and 35, that gives you what, 13 years to like hustle.
Yeah.
Then when you're 35 to 40, then you transition to post 40, the money will more than likely be there. And he doesn't say it exactly like that, but that's the way I'm saying it. Because it only makes sense if you put in the time, you put in the experience, it's going to make sense. It's going to happen, which is what I foresee. Like right now we're just hustling, just trying to maneuver and do these things. Like one thing that Gary Vee talks about, I don't know if it's today's vlog or yesterday's, but either way, there's a clip that he posted on social media where he talks about pivoting, because some people either pivot as a defense, like they use a pivot as an excuse as to why they can't accomplish something. And Tim Ferriss, Gary Vee talks about pivoting as an offense, simply adapting to whatever's needed with the market, or simply adapting, in our case right now, social media, adapting and utilizing what we have to make the next best decision, not saying, oh, I didn't reach my goal because of this change. So then retracting, hustling, using time to maneuver, to accomplish things, and then the money, I say, will follow.
Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of how I've been like thinking about things lately. Getting the work done now, and eventually, it kind of goes hand in hand with the whole like delayed gratification. Like if you put in the effort, the work and effort now, then you will be compensated.
Yeah. And it's interesting, as you said that just now, I remember distinctly, like around the first month or two that I started playing with Roy at HC. And Roy, he's a good man. And I remember specifically then he started giving me like a lot of like little pointers. And one of the things he brought up was like girls and success. I was 19, 20 years old at this time. So yeah, that information makes sense now about what he was giving me then. But as soon as he told me that, and for me at the time it was more of success, because I didn't want to get a big head. I wanted to just learn and grasp as much as I could. And even that's true then. It's still true now. I'm doing my own pivot, right? So anyways, I told him, oh, I'm not worried about success. I know I'm gonna get what I want eventually with time. And like of course, I didn't know how much time. I don't know how much time now. How much time it's gonna take. But I just distinctly remember as you're talking right now, as far as if you put in the work, you'll get compensated. And I remember saying along those lines what you just said. 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Excuse me, damn. But so interesting that I remember that. See, that's what Alpha Brain does. Alpha Brain just lets me retract a little
Goes
more.
into that
just
archive of memories. And
just a little more, just a little longer.
That's true. I don't know if you ever heard that like the brain pretty much like stores every single like moment that you live and see. The hard part is like going and
taking out that
retrieving
file.
it. Yeah.
That's super interesting. And probably from you. I never finished anything. Probably from you, but as far as hearing that, where it works basically like a hard drive of a computer. A standard desktop, keeps everything. Even if you erase it, the hard drive has the file in there erased, but it's there. It's in basically in a trash bin in the hard drive. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's archived forever. So then you end up running out of memory, and then you need an external hard drive or get a new computer, and that's a bunch of crap. Because I hate that. That's just a little rant. Okay, I'm done. Yeah, dude. Because I have this laptop. I have a desktop, an old desktop that all I want to do is just rip the hard drive. Like rip the information, not rip the hard drive, but I want to rip the hard drive and just put it on an external hard drive. I don't know how to do that because that computer is slow as hell. So I don't know if there's any way to do that. That I need to get with someone to get that done.
Yeah.
Either way, moving forward now, so Tim Ferriss has this other list of questions that he's come up with that helped him over the years, and then ultimately led to Tools of Titans, which is his latest book that he released that I own. I bought Brian his copy, um, and I will continue to gift along with Extreme Ownership and some other books that I truly believe in. Um, but anyways, this particular it's actually a podcast episode. I don't know if he released it at the beginning of the year or at the end of last year. Like it was within a month of each other, right? Of like maybe the last 2 weeks of December or the first 2 weeks of January. But he developed 17 questions, and you can find it online. You can find it in the podcast. There's multiple outlets that you can put on. So out of the 17, I wrote down, I think it was 11. I wrote on, yeah, I think it was 11 or 12. I lost count. Anyways, oh no, and then I added one. So let's say 12-ish questions that I wrote down. And I'm only going to go through the questions that I found specific because, like I said, there's 17. I only chose maybe 11 or 12, and then I wrote one on my own.
Okay.
Because some of the other ones involve, like, one of the questions was, what if I let them, the employees or contractors, make decisions up to $100, $500, $1,000, etc.? We can't answer that question for the simple fact that we don't have our own businesses, right?
Right.
So we can't answer that. Now, there's maybe ways we can, like, pivot that question and entail coworkers, but I don't want to do that right now.
Well, we did that. We did something similar at the teller line when I was a teller back in the day.
Okay.
Back in the day.
How long was back in the day?
Back in the day was like going on 3 years.
So Simon Sinek says something similar to what you said,
Mhm.
and Gary Vee's like, how long? And then Simon Sinek responds like 9 months ago. And he's like, what?
Well, it just feels like so much has happened and changed since then.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
at the
Continue.
teller
Teller
line, what
go.
we would do is for like let's say a customer brought in cash or wanted to withdraw money from their account for a cashier's check. The tellers had a certain limit that they could create the cashier's check for. The teller supervisor had another limit, and if it went beyond that limit, then your manager had to approve. So I thought it was pretty interesting, and I think it was a good thing that we had those limits and like I guess those like approval authorities, I guess, because it gave us some responsibility, even down to like the earliest like stage of a teller.
Okay.
We all had that like authority, so it was a good thing. But at the same time, it's like as a teller, you already have so many other responsibilities.
I was about to ask, how did that make you feel? And then did you feel like was this a part of your mindset, like, oh, I'm given this trust, and I feel better about that?
Well, for me at the time, because that was like my first like real job, so it was it was a little bit overwhelming with all of like the duties and the how do I say this? To me, it was just a very like you had to be very careful with everything because you're handling cash and you're dealing with people's bank accounts. Like, if there's anything that people get very like touchy about, it's
Right.
their money.
Absolutely.
So,
right. Absolutely right.
A
Makes
wrong keystroke or a wrong number,
sense. Delete.
yeah, like it could be very very dangerous.
Mhm.
So, for me, being that my very like, like the real job, and then to be that like in that like that having that responsibility or those responsibilities,
Mhm.
it was pretty overwhelming. But the whole authority for like the cashier's check, those things, that thing was very. It was just like another responsibility. It didn't make me feel like it made me feel like I was being trusted with something.
Okay.
I was being trusted with people's accounts like all day,
Right. Yeah.
day in and day out.
Yeah, 8 to 5.
So
whatever.
it was just like another responsibility, another duty. But I think coming out of that position, I did feel like, wow, like, someone trusted me, because my hiring process for that job was fairly simple and quick.
Right.
So I felt really good about it. When leaving, I guess they were trying to convince me to stay, or
Yeah. Hey, think about it. Think it over.
So it felt really good that even having those responsibilities and how careful you have to be with it, how detail oriented you have to be with those things, like they thought I did a good enough job to not want to let me leave.
Right. Let you go.
Yeah, so it was as far as that that specific authority that we started with, it was another responsibility, really. At least that's how I thought about it
Right at the time.
back in the day, because it was so overwhelming, and I had so many things that it was just one more thing. And
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder what Tim Ferriss would say to that now, because of course we're younger then, and one thing he says like, because his answer was to this was like, after he did that, that left him so much like space, because which makes sense for your manager, but then how does your employee feel? How do your contractors feel? And that's something maybe I'd ask Tim Ferriss now. Is like I understand his from the top level looking down, but what about the bottom level looking up? And that's just something that I'd ask as a middle manager.
yeah,
You know,
I think that's
way of thinking.
important. Like for me, it wasn't too much. I say it was overwhelming,
Yeah.
but it
Well, at the
wasn't.
time, it probably felt overwhelming.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It wasn't unmanageable.
Okay.
So especially because I wasn't doing all of these things at the same time. It was different responsibilities for different tasks, different transactions, but it wasn't like I was doing all of these things at once. So, excuse me, in my head, it was always like, okay, I'm taking care of this thing. This is what I have to do. Like, it was kind of compartmentalizing everything. Everything I did, I'd like reach in there and be, okay, these are the procedures. This is what I gotta do. This is what I gotta take care of. So I think it definitely does free up a lot of time to, going up the chain of command. But I think it's important to note when you're giving too much, I guess, authority or too many responsibilities down to the bottom.
Yeah.
Because in the end, you don't want like one person or a specific department, like a team, doing too much where they just kind of lose it. You lose control, and then that's where more liabilities end up.
I was gonna say, in addition to liabilities, maybe also, as long as there are no mistakes either, then that still gives top management clearance to say, okay, this is fine. We can keep giving them responsibilities. So as long as things keep, like, let's say, as overwhelmed as you were, and let's just say you worked at 100%, right, and you were never wrong. Let's assume that. Then, while you feel overwhelmed, it still like lets him or lets them, kind of go about everything as normal. Now, like I said, me as a middle, because remember I've said this over and over. Where I feel comfortable at middle management, so me hearing you, I know exactly what I would then work down, work up. Now,
Yeah.
And because this started when I was working retail. As far as my question developing of like, okay, the regional manager was there, which takes cover of like the whole South Bend from Georgia down to Texas. So even when going through the processes with him, I started asking questions because I started hearing my boss, I started hearing employees say certain things that I was like, okay, there's a pause here. Now I didn't think about it so technically like I do now, but something like that where because I would see you in the hustle, right? I would see you day to day, where then at the board meeting, at the next joint meeting, whatever type of meeting that I'm involved with my higher ups, I would say, hey, how can we adapt this? Is there something we can do? Now, the answer that I fucking hate is like, well, no, we don't have the money, or we don't have something. Like, they don't have, like, we don't have the resources. I'm like, well, what resources? I want to know specifically why we can't pivot something. I'm using these terms now. It's not something I'd used back then, but still, me as a middle manager, now I'm not saying the work should be piece of cake, because you should have. I mean, you need to have responsibilities. You need stuff to do, because I need to have my stuff to do, right? But still, at the end of the day, every Friday, I would venture to, hey, how's it going? Oh man, I'm super busy. I feel super tied up. I feel overwhelmed. This is that, and I'm like, okay, I would take that into account now, and work up, because I was like, hey guys, my team, the guys below me, they're working really hard. They're at 100% for the past X amount of months. Now, is there a way we can separate these delegations? Can we have like a team thing? Something like along those lines.
Right.
But that's what I was getting out of what you're saying. That's what I would say right now as a middle manager. That's where I belong. Like, even when I'm with Eddie, when I'm with 9 round. Now, Gary Vee talks about being like the number 4 guy, number 5 guy, number 10, number 11 guy. Where I think he even says like the Facebook, like the person who's like number 11 makes more than like half like the CEOs like around like the U.S. Like just like that's how much revenue they're bringing in. But anyways, I see myself as that guy, or at least maybe I say I see myself like that, but maybe I also try to put myself there. Where when I'm at 9 round, there's a handful of employees, and I'm the last one by choice.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do try to communicate with everybody, no matter what. Even if it's how was your weekend, I get to find out, was it overwhelming, was it stressful, was it good, was it a good weekend, whatever. When I'm with Eddie, there's 5 of us total, and I'm number 5 because I'm reaching out to listen and see what's up, because one thing that I'm picking up is like the way we feel, which goes back to Tony Robbins and emotion, is gonna affect our work.
Yep.
Now, if we're not feeling well, sometimes I don't feel well. Sometimes I feel either crappy because I didn't sleep, or I'm overwhelmed with maybe just time. I'm just like, oh, I feel time constraint for myself, or something happened with my family that I had to like just put the schedule aside and just go with them and do whatever I need to do. But that's where I put myself, because that then I feel and I hope that it brings more production, brings more production to life. So, going back to the questions, we haven't gotten to number 1 yet. we actually went off on a question that I was not gonna bring up because I felt like we couldn't delve yet, but we obviously have been in the middle of that as the employee, as the contractor, because I'm in contract, with my music, and especially because BMI and all this, songwriting stuff that I'm a part of as well.
Right.
I actually like this, getting the feedback from the employee. Getting feedback from the contractor. That's my, when he said this question out loud, that was my thing. I'm like, well, what about working the way up, Tim? Like that'd be my question. How would you as a manager accommodate low to up? I'm not talking about me as a middle manager. For me, I'd tell him I'm fine. Let's assume I'm fine. I love my work. I'm moving. I'm doing things. I'm making things happen. Now you helping lower management and retention, job retention. How bad or how good is your turnover, stuff like that. So let's go back to question number 1 that Tim Ferriss talks about. He says, what if I did the opposite for 48 hours? Now the context behind this is he worked in sales for some tech company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the time he was doing a lot of cold calls, so basically just phone numbers and calling, right? And cold emails and all that stuff. And at some point, he said he saw that, well, all the other salespeople call from 9 to 5. All the other people with desk jobs in his company call and do their work 9 to 5. All the people that he needed to talk to were busy 9 to 5. So he made like a schedule for 48 hours where he would make cold calls only from, I think, 7:30 to 9 in the morning, and whatever he got, and then from 6:30 to 8:30 at night. And anything in between that he had to make a cold call, he would cold email. And he says it actually, in that case, it worked for him, like doing the opposite. And that's what I wanted to make sure to mention, is like not literally the opposite of like your daily life,
Right.
but of whatever you're trying to accomplish. If
like
your
do it
angle's not,
differently.
if your angle's not working, and if you're trying to follow like a mold, what would happen if you do the opposite? And I don't know if you can answer that, because now that I'm reading out and giving context, can you think of anything of doing the opposite for 48 hours?
I don't know about for 48 hours, but for sure, what I've noticed is sometimes, I have to go into work on the weekend or I have to stay late. I am much more productive outside of like normal business hours. Like, my job is really 8 to 5, but when it requires more work, I'm there later, or sometimes I have to go in on the weekends, and I find myself being so much more productive during that time.
Yeah.
That time outside of normal business hours.
Right. And see, I mean that answers the question, because that's kind of the same thing. What do 90% of your fellow employees, colleagues, and employers work? More than likely 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and that's it. Now you come in, you have, because also you work in a unique department, so that has a factor of its own. But still, doing the opposite, which is staying late, coming in early, going in weekends, you're being that much, besides, productive, but also again, answering the question, you're doing the opposite of what
Yeah.
everybody else is doing to get work done.
Yeah, sometimes I wish I could just go in later and do like sometimes maybe do like a I don't
Like
know.
a 12 to 8.
Yeah, something.
Would you be down for like a 12? Well, it would be 12 to 9 because you have the hour lunch, so it'd
Yeah.
be 12 to 9. But
Have a little
something like
dinner
that.
hour, but
happy hour.
I won't come back. So yeah, like I don't know. It's probably not not very accepted, but
Yeah.
I'd be so down if I had the
Right.
opportunity.
That's so interesting because
Maybe not every day, because I'd hate to get out of work at 8 every night, because
Yeah.
I like to take advantage of the sunlight
Yeah.
sometimes during the week. So
Well, I mean, let's just speed off of it. Let's say you you're able to alter your schedule. You do have more of the morning.
I do, but like I like that. I don't know. I don't know if I'm being cheesy, but I kind of like the whole sunset. Having
Okay.
that part of the day to free for me to do whatever.
Right, you get to be out.
Yeah.
Out.
So if I could do like half the week, 12 to 8, and then the other half.
Or you could do a 10 to 7. The sun's
That too,
the sun's
yeah.
been going down at 8 lately, so
Yeah. One time, I think where was I? That I had to do a 10 to 7, and it sucked.
well, work
'Cause it just
you were a
takes-
teller. You did a
I'm
bunch of
trying
10
to
to 7s,
remember. No.
Like at the beginning or like towards
I
somewhere
don't-
before
I
you
don't-
left.
I don't remember if it was
Oh, I
teller, but
could've
the 10
sworn-
to 7s suck.
I could have sworn you said like on Sundays you would work 10 to, like basically open to close or something.
Yeah, well, yeah, Sundays it was like a 10 to 7, but then I felt like I had like no time.
Okay.
Like I went in not very early but not very late, and then I got out and the sun was like setting. So I felt like literally my entire day it felt like I was at work.
Mhm.
So no, not a fan of 10 to 7s. 12 to 8 12 to 8 sounds a little better because you like you said you have the morning available.
you have the
The
morning.
complete morning. A 10 to 7. I don't know if it's just me being like very analytical about it.
I
but
will tell you I cannot stand 10 to 7s.
there you go.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's my answer.
Yeah.
That's what, so before we got to this, I wanted to get your full context
Yeah.
because for me, dude, I used to work 10 to 7, a bunch,
Mhm.
especially being, head cashier, key holder, all this stuff, back when I was working retail. I was, those were the shifts that you need someone reliable on duty, and that was me, and that's fine. Like, I was good with it, but the time, especially because the midday for me is so long. For me,
Yeah.
1 to 4 is so long for me every day, no matter what. I get through it, like especially when I have like today I had stuff to do. I had to train Luis. Like I had to finish these questions for the podcast, and then work, and then come straight here and we did the pod. We're recording now, but for whatever reason, bro, like
For
yeah.
me, it's just that you don't have enough of the morning and you don't have enough of the evening.
Yeah.
It's
No,
so
that makes so much sense.
awkward.
Yeah. I remember. A lot of people would complain about the 10 to 7s, and I didn't like them any more than anybody else. But I mean, you have to look at.
Had to be done.
Yeah, you look at the goal, you look at what you want to do, and and usually even when I worked retail, it wasn't like every day or anything crazy. But when you see that on your schedule, I dreaded it. To be honest, like I dreaded it too. Like, oh my god, 10 to 7, like. But it goes exactly to that because we all agreed even then when I was working retail was you don't have enough in the morning, you don't have enough at night, and it's like
Yeah.
I'd rather work 10 essentially I would rather work 10 hours a day, work 4 days in a row and have 3 days off.
My sister does that. She works 3 days out of the week, 12-hour shifts. And thinking about it, it feels so like liberating for some reason,
Yeah.
Yeah, you're stuck at work 12 hours a day, but you only 3 days out of the week. Like,
As long as you don't waste it.
yeah.
And it's cool because I know your sister doesn't waste it. There's another client who's a nurse, also works her 3/12s, which is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and what that's her deal. So like, I do think, and like I said, for them they don't waste it, so that's good,
Yep.
And actually, this past weekend I got to learn that specific client. I got to learn a little more about her just because they went in with a sibling and whatnot, and I was like, oh wow, like. But again, for me today, it just solidifies like her not wasting time. She's out and she's doing this and she's doing that. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool to see. Very cool. Freaking dogs. I'm gonna say freaking dogs because I heard Tim Ferriss say it on his podcast because his dog was barking, so I was like, I can say it once. It was like because just a side note is like it annoys me, like I cannot, because when I'm re-listening, like
Yeah.
it does annoy me. It's just like be quiet, like stop it. Anyways, for me, it seems like my opposite is having, but also finding, you know, the multiple jobs, the ability to have multiple jobs, where
Okay.
they're both just as flexible, like, and even now I would say like 9 rounds not it's not like 100% flexible, but it's flexible enough.
Mhm.
And I'll say this on the podcast is like, right now that I'm available, and if I get called for a shift, I don't turn it down. I rarely turn on a shift unless I'm like busy with a show
Right.
or something that family that okay, it's an event that I cannot miss. Okay, that's different. But because that honestly, it gives me leverage. So say, hey man, can I have? I need Friday. I can't be here.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I'll cover for you. Cool. Yeah, I'll cover you. Cover for me all these other days. And for me, it's for at least for now, it's even liberating to get that. I am appreciative for them to give me my days when I have shows, or if I'm out. That well, no, that wasn't working last year, but um, earlier, when I go to Houston or we go to court, whatever the deal is, I get the time, but um, it's and a second piece of it is that it's more money in my check. It's more in that sense. 'Cause and I said this last week where I need that monetary income. You need, and you've said this, and I love that answer, is you need money to make things happen. You still need capital. You still need stuff. So
Yep.
ultimately, right now, school's out. I'm not substituting right now, so I'm picking up every single shift I can, and then everything's just following. Everything's just flowing. It works out. Um, so it seems like that's kind of the opposite thing, because for sure I knew I wasn't gonna get a 9 to 5, any industry.
Mhm.
That's not my style. That's just not my style.
Right.
And now that Tim Ferriss and all these guys talk about like scratching your own itch and doing things and it goes back to just being the most productive. It's like, well, I'm most productive like extremely late at night and then like early in the morning, and then my midday's like 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 I'll get stuff done. Especially now, I get stuff done if I have to.
Yeah.
And like right now, like the way I get stuff done now midday is take Luis to work out, and we're out there for 2 hours in the sun and getting beat. And today he got dehydrated. Like I'm like, dude, because he was here at the home with the weekend, but he wasn't drinking any water, and it caught up to him today. It took but 48 hours for it to catch up to him, and I said, you cannot stop. And it did get me upset. I did get upset. I did yell a little bit, but I eventually caught myself to where I stopped. I stopped that, and I said, dude, like you cannot. You cannot afford it. I'm like, what's gonna happen when you go when we go to Dallas in July? I'm like, you think those kids are out? No, like I don't only need you to listen to me, but I will tell you why you need to listen to me. Because for one, I want you to succeed. But I'm telling you, those kids up there are not messing around, dude. They're
Yeah.
not messing around. I'm like, you're gonna meet some college coaches. You have the potential to meet some college coaches. I'm like, you need to give a good impression.
Mhm.
I'm like, cause I'm working out with you. They're not gonna look at me, bro. They're not gonna look at me, and that's what fires me up. To try to fire him up, like, dude, we're here for you.
Yeah.
Like, I do care about you. I do want you to succeed. You have the chance that a lot of kids here in the Valley are not gonna have. So, anyways, that's how I filled up my midday, right? So then like today we trained for a couple hours. He went to eat, and then I went to go eat after. But then I went straight to 9 round. I didn't have to open. I got there early because I had to finish the questions. But I went straight to something else. I didn't have space. I didn't have time to think like, oh my god, it's midday. Like I'm tired or whatever. It's like, no, I needed to get this done because I know if I wasn't gonna get it done then, this podcast wouldn't be flowing the way it's flowing right now.
Right.
It's just inevitable. We've already gone. I mean, I don't know how long I'll cut from here, which is not much, but we're at 58 minutes. We've already gone over an hour in 3 questions. And some context to give. Like, yeah. So, anyways, yeah, I would say that's it. Because as far as everybody else, maybe also like the opposite is like working to have money. Because then what I'm using my money for is the podcast. I'm investing. I'm also I now have technically 2 separate savings of my name accounts. Before one I had with my parents because I was just giving them money, but now that I'm building my stuff, my investments plus my savings account, which is more of my emergency fund, that's also another thing that I would say as far as like people our age that I know of. I don't know too many people investing or using their money as capital to help their future. Not like I know I feel like maybe sometimes I get too caught up in my future, but lately I've tried to I like especially writing down the goals and then having Luis helps me micromanage a lot or helps me micro speed a lot because
Okay.
he only has right now, right? He has right
Right.
now to get ready for July. So working with him every day gives me my micro. Working with clients every day gives me my micro. While when I come home, I'm still learning. I'm still writing down questions. I'm still trying to find new things. Maybe I haven't heard Tony Robbins say it or Tim Ferriss say it or something. Jocko say something. Um, I would have to thinking like I said, thinking about it now. That may be another uh, opposite thing. It's not 48 hours, but it's just something I'm doing opposite. That I've now. I mean, I would say over the past few months, especially since I started my investing in May. Since
Hmm.
then, that's just added one more thing that I know a lot of people aren't doing right now.
Right.
Dang, I went 22 minutes on the on the phone. That's a lot. I mean, it's not long, but it's for the vlog. But
Right.
I don't. Side note, for as far as like the vlog goes, like I take these like clips of, and the reason why I don't like them long is because I feel like I won't have people's attention for that long, so I usually cut it down to like a minute.
Hmm.
Like anything podcast or vlog or informative, it's a minute or less, and then anything in between is like no longer than 12 seconds. Because remember we read that article a while back saying 12-second attention span.
Yep.
So that's for you people listening. Like if you go catch my vlog, it's very methodical in thinking about like okay, I'm trying to get the next generation at least back up to 12 seconds, not less than 8 seconds for them. Gen Z, they're at 8 second attention span.
That's so crazy, man. Like it's crazy. It's crazy. The fact, if it is true, let's assume it is, that Gen Zers have an 8 second attention span.
Yep.
But it's so crazy the things that have contributed to that, which basically technology and social media.
Yeah. Yeah.
So insane, man. Like it's just crazy.
Yeah. And it's funny because like now that like we read that information, assuming it's true, like now Snapchat has that infinity sign. Like, do you even realize like who's gonna watch it
Yeah.
for infinity?
Exactly.
It's probably gonna be less.
Dude, and I've never revealed this, but I set my pictures on Snapchat when I posted my story. I set them to 4 seconds on purpose because, well, I say it on purpose because I don't like look at people's pictures for more than probably 3 seconds.
Just kind of see it, find some context, and then move on.
Exactly. That's exactly it. So I kind of don't want to bother people with a 5 second picture, so I set it specifically to 4.
That's so funny because I do the opposite. Like videos, I'll do the full round of video, right?
Uh-huh.
For pictures, depending on what it is, if it's important enough to me, I'll put it for infinity or at least 10. I will leave it there. Now, I can't do anything about for the people like that's you 3-4 seconds, that's it. But if I can get out of 100 people, if I can get 5 that watch the whole thing or listen to the whole thing, that's still my 5% that I want.
Yeah.
That's I look for 5%. And this is a theory, and I can say this on the podcast, is the email theory, which I learned from my either capstone, no, my business communications professor.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, that was around 2013, probably 2013 or early 2014, one of those semesters. And we were going over stats of communication. And this is but business comms. We weren't even talking about social media 3 years ago, bro. We weren't. Not the depth that it is now.
Yeah.
And so his thing for emails is that, especially when you're trying to communicate to extend your business or expand your business, is you should only expect 5%, which is 5 out of 100. But now I've been using that theory with my mom, with her marketing campaign. And she's like, well, why haven't I done this? I'm like, well, how many people have you reached? Well, 50. Okay, then you get like 2, maybe, if you're lucky.
Yeah.
You get, less than, about 2. It's about 2, right? It's about, it's less than that.
Mm-hmm.
And because 5 is 10%. So yeah, let's say 1 or 2, 1.5 people for every 50, 5 for every 100. And like as we talk about like this stuff, I'm okay with that because I'm just looking to reach, have content out so people for people to see and get something out of it. So that's just my point of view and I keep it now because like I said, it's holding true, bro. Like okay, it's something to consider, and it's something that I tell people now, especially people expanding their business. That's, I mean, for you guys listening, it's something to consider because so far it's held true. You know, um, now I need to start writing data for my mom to get exact numbers, but honestly, like for now, I'm with Luis. I rarely see my mom as far as like when it has to do with business because she's either doing something or she has my aunt or whatever, and she only comes to me when she has like a major, something major, like, hey, I need help with this. Okay, cool.
Right.
We'll figure it out, get it done. Not a big deal. But as far as like data like that, I would just tell you that yeah, there's and watching myself, I only have like 40 people. I think like 40 people on my Snapchat. So one person, if one person out of that watches the entire video or the entire picture or whatever,
Right.
like that's all I should ever expect. With 40 people, that's all I should expect.
Something's up with my Snapchat. I didn't think I had more than like 30 people, and sometimes I just like look like
The
whatever part
friends,
of the story,
okay.
how many people have watched, and it's like 50 people. Like what the heck? Like I didn't even know 50 people followed me.
Existed.
Yeah, like
a
what
Snapchat
the
world.
heck?
That's so
I need
funny.
to go back and like clean out my friends.
Well, that's one thing I'll be honest. Like, I don't follow everybody back. Like, it just depends. Like, if we for
Yeah, me
sure,
neither.
yeah, if we for sure communicated and we're cool,
Mhm.
because I'm frankly, it's nothing personal. It's just like
Yeah.
if I don't communicate with you, then we're cool. Now I do have my options open to where anybody can message me and anybody can see mine.
Mhm.
So like I have like that, and then my main thing is like for those who follow me and I then have to respond, I will respond. But until I get to a point where maybe it's more like a clientele type basis, then I'll add you back. But right now, I have no reason to make you follow me, because I'm still putting out content, and and right now, like no one's also like attracted me to follow them back. Like the people who I follow are people, like I said, people that I know.
Yeah.
There's personal friends or whatever, or even colleagues, right? Whatever. But like I said, people that I do communicate with, more often than not.
Yeah.
Where the people that I don't follow, it's like, well, because I just don't communicate with you enough.
Man, someone out there has my Snapchat username like posted publicly as theirs, cuz for a while and even recently, like maybe 2 weeks ago, I got someone adding me, and in their like name at the end of it they had like a Colombian flag, and they said hey, and I was like, I asked like who are you, like how did you get my username, and they were like, oh, it's me, like so and so. I was like, I don't know you. I think you've got the wrong person. And all they replied was "f you." It's like they got upset.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Maybe they thought I was somebody else,
Right,
kind of
maybe.
ignoring them, or
Right.
like just like brushing them off. And no, that wasn't the case. But they got upset about it.
Hmm.
But
That's interesting. There's actually a remedy for the people who say "f you."
yeah,
Like you would then ask him why. Like why? Like why? Like
yeah.
it's a Josh Waitzkin thing that
yeah.
I haven't used it, but he talks about it and how he's used it like to succeed.
I think that's a good like what's the word? It's like a good, just a good comeback or a good rebuttal to almost anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's exactly right. Because Josh Waitzkin then says, for the most part, the majority of people, once they say something negative about you and you respond back, is with either something positive or like a light joke, like "ooh, someone woke up on the wrong side of the bed." You just lighten it up. Half of them don't respond because they're so pissed off because they genuinely don't like your idea. They genuinely don't like you. The other half, what was it? So the first half was like they won't respond. The second half, I think it was just one half. So the half that doesn't respond, they don't respond. Then the other ones that you do respond to, they're like, oh, I thought I wouldn't get a response.
Yeah.
And then from there, where you're like, why? Like then you build up the conversation. Then you go into that, and, which it still entails the same thing of what you're saying.
Yeah, now thinking back a little broader, I feel like why starts up a lot of conversations. Not just a good, comeback or a good like I guess like bully repellent, but
Yeah.
it just sparks conversation.
Yep. Oh, man, and I messed up because I didn't write the name of who was here. So there's another video of Tim Ferriss on Big Think. It's on YouTube. If you type in Tim Ferriss Big Think, asking dumb questions. And there's a guy, and it's in Tools of Titans. It's in his podcast. But I'm excited. I messed up because I was gonna go, and I looking at it now. I was gonna go back and write the name. 'Cause I'm like, I know I'm gonna need this. I need to write the name. I forgot, obviously. But the first thing he says, no matter what, even if he understands this person, I forgot. He's an I think he's an investor, and because it's not Chris Sacca it's not Chris Sacca. It's like somebody else relevant to Chris Sacca. Anyways, one of the things he'll say is, "I don't understand. Please explain." Like it's not like you're wrong or I don't believe you. It's like, hold on, I don't understand. Please explain. So maybe like the F, he's like, whoa, I don't understand. I'm telling you what I think.
Why?
Can you please explain? You know, if you wanted to continue. I'm not saying to you. I'm just saying like that'd probably be a game that I played just to play that game.
Yeah.
To see what's going on, you know, and maybe with a relationship, you go to Colombia and like, hey, best friend.
Well, to me, it's just at least in that moment, I was such an introvert that I didn't care. You know.
No, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, this is new. You know, this is new. Something that's like, well, you could, you know, play around.
Yeah.
You know, play around
Yeah.
and see what happens. It's so funny. Oh man.
I should probably look up that person and tell them. Somebody had added me like last year at some point.
Okay.
And we established like, you know, they didn't tell me to F off. I just asked like, how did you get my username? And they're like, oh, on your Instagram, I think. I was like, I don't have Instagram. At the time, I wasn't using
public
it.
life, live public.
Yeah. So then I asked. I was like, well, could you please tell that person to take it down because it's obviously not me.
Yeah.
I guess they never did.
Whatever. That's so funny. That's so fucking hilarious. All right. Here's an interesting one. This one was really good because I know like a few months ago the answer was candy. But the second question is, what do I spend a silly hold on, sorry. What do I spend a silly amount of money on? You know, and then as far as the scratch my own itch, I'll go into that after I think we can answer it first and then go into the context. So there's one piece of context is Tim Ferriss. He starts with his credit card statements, because I know like Wells Fargo, at least they give you like a pie chart of like where you've allocated like your whatever money you've inputted, you know, where you're spending it. Which is interesting because I'm now gonna look at mine because I think I know where mine stands now, especially starting investing and like AdWords and stuff with Google. But if you can think immediately, because like I said, immediately me was it used to be candy, and now my immediate thinking is investing and then ads.
Yeah.
So if you could think of what do you think you spend a silly amount of money on?
I already know, because I don't know if Wells Fargo does it. I think it might. I think I've seen it somewhere. But I have my own spreadsheet where I input all of my transactions, and I have it already categorized, and it'll give me a pie chart. And it's food and alcohol. And I'm not very proud to say it.
Yeah.
But my reasoning isn't, when I do it, it's not because I just want to, eat and get fat and
get plastered
and drink
too.
and get plastered. It's because that's around, the time, the activities that I get to socialize and spend time with, the people that I care about. Mm-hmm. When we go out for dinner or, go out for like a snack or go out for a drink, it's kind of like the collateral damage of trying to have an experience
and socialize. Yeah. Socialize. And like you knowing that you're such an introvert, and it's stuck in your head, that when you do go out, like you said, you go out and you want to have a good time. You want to just go. And you don't want to be worried about some type of constraint, of any type, not even just money.
And to me, I'm just now thinking about this. Maybe because I'm such an introvert at times, that meal or that beverage kind of justifies the interaction. Like, it's a reason to socialize, to talk to people.
Yeah.
Not just like, hey, like, we're just standing somewhere in the hallway or standing in a room just like, hey, like, no. We're talking, we're interacting because we're eating.
That sounds like, picture that, people, like, that sounds funny,
Yeah.
Like, it's like you're standing around like, hey, what's
exactly.
up?
So.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah. I think it goes a lot better around, plate of food or a pitcher of beer or a couple glasses of whiskey.
I'll say some scotch and just kind of chill. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, well, I already said mine. Mine is, I think, at least for now, and it's not a silly amount. It's just what I spend my money on is the podcast. You know, a lot of it's just for now.
Yeah.
My checks are I'm treating them as capital to get things going, to get things rolling. One thing I'm still scared of is how much that website's gonna cost, like the overall. Because I bought the domain. The domain's mine, which
Right.
I like that goal alone. Because I didn't know that there's a difference between buying the domain. I thought the website was just the website.
Yeah, no, and when you showed me that pricing schedule, I thought that was it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Makes-
it
yeah.
sort of makes sense that you buy the domain, but then you also kind of buy the digital space.
Right, digital space, and it's like buying like a trademark or like copyright, like trademark type, like Kellogg's. You know, like where you have that, and like you type Kellogg's.com, it's gonna be a bunch of cereal and like products by Kellogg. You know,
Yeah.
so that kind of make you're buying that now. The products are different. You know, you have to pay for the cereal, you have to pay for the candy bar or the candy bars, nutrition bars, whatever. Then the supplies, the box and the plastic and all that shit.
Yeah.
So now as we talk about it, it's like it kind of makes sense. Like, okay, I gotta see about how much it's gonna cost per year
Yeah.
to run AndyWalkerLeads.com. Subconsciously dropping that periodically.
What is it, subliminally?
Or yeah. Subliminally to feed and plant a seed. My phone says to go to sleep. It's too early. I did go to sleep super early yesterday though. I was up by like 4, but I went to sleep super early because I was just dying from Saturday, dude. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, dude. Like it wasn't even only Saturday to Sunday. It was a great time hanging out with you and getting to see Leo. Like it was all great. Like I didn't even,
Dude,
that's the thing. Like I didn't even care because even when I got to the gym, like, so you haven't slept. I'm like, like an hour and a half. Like I slept technically, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, but see, like, there's some things that just go beyond. And I said this all in the podcast where it just goes beyond sleep. I can give a damn most of the time. And Saturday was a great exception.
Dude, I was dying. Well, I guess to put this out there, me and a couple other friends were at a wedding, and then Andy joined in at the after party
After
later
the
on.
gig.
Yeah, so I was dying at the wedding as it is. Like I was just exhausted, but because we don't get to see Leo enough,
Yeah, we don't get to see Leo.
I was I was pushing through, and then at the after party, I think he was the one that called it. No, Leo.
Yeah, Leo was yeah, because he said, he's like, dude, I was just waiting for you to get there because I'm
Yeah,
ready to go to sleep.
He said that
I was ready to
before
go
you
to
showed
sleep.
up. He's like, hey, like where's Andy? I just kind of want to say hi and spend some time and then head out.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I'm with you. I was exhausted.
And then
but
by the time I got there, and I was still there for like 45 minutes looking at the clock.
I didn't
like it
realize-
was like a while.
I didn't realize
little while.
how long until like later when I was trying to think back to just
What
trying
was
to
going
remember what was trying to remember like everything we did the day and the
Mhm.
night, like how basically just recapping.
Right.
I was like, hey, you know what, we didn't leave right after Andy got
Nah,
there.
we were still there about 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah.
At least 30 minutes, if not 40, 45 minutes after. And then we finally hit out. Because, I mean, I was ready just to hang out with Leo. Of course, we know the bride, or I know the groom. We know the groom, so you guys know the bride, but I didn't. But I was able to congratulate them. And he, the groom, I'm not gonna say his name because he's out having a vacation of his own in Cabo, which is awesome. But actually, we need to get him on here ASAP too. Well, I'm not gonna go into that. Anyways, congratulated them. Give them as many blessings as they can get because and that's one of the genuine things that I do feel is like just feeling genuinely happy and hoping that they have a prosperous marriage, and it goes back to my statements of why do you want to be unhappy, why do you want to do things that are negative. Some of the negativity stuff, it's ingrained in your brain, especially depending on your upbringing, depending on who you're socializing with, depending on how your relatives are, family members, aunts, uncles. It's all relative to that. But in the case of like them starting this new journey together and living together and choosing to make their vows to each other, to me it's a very big deal, and it's not something that I take lightly, at least, especially when I trace back to military and those guys that are overseas and all that heavy stuff that I talk about from time to time, that it comes up and I think about it. That's why I hang a flag in my room. I have it here and I have a Texas flag, for all those guys that are out there. But anyways, they got married. So then my main thing after congratulating them was just hanging out with Leo. And we still went to the hotel room and like it was still like another 30 minutes. It was still like another
Goofed off for a little bit.
dude. Yeah, it was just goofed off, and if you guys have me on Snapchat and Instagram, you got to catch it. If not, then you're missing out. You guys think I'm playing when I say add us on social media. Like add us on social media, you get to see what's up, and you guys get to catch all the fun that we have at 3:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. Dude, it's 4 o'clock.
It was 4.
That was still an hour and a half after. Like that was still like an hour after. Like we freaking left.
I'm telling you, man. I recapped the next day and I was like, dang, like that was a little longer than I thought it was.
Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Dude, it's great, dude. And maybe that's why for us time is going by so fast. And maybe for those who aren't having as much fun, it's not until the retrospect that they realize how much time has gone by.
Yeah.
I'm having a blast. I talked about that all last week when we were on this when we were recording last
I've
week's
said it
podcast.
before, even with when with the lows and downs, the rest of it is fine.
It's fine. It's great. Yeah. Oh man.
You kind of need that balance. I mean, stuff we've talked about before.
Yeah.
That's
That's what I'm saying.
The downs make the highs higher, and I'm one way or another. I'm thankful for it. Whether present me is thankful or future me will be thankful.
Yeah.
I'm thankful.
Absolutely. Oh man. All right, here's another good question that I think everybody could help them start developing their long-term dreams, long-range dreams, as Jim Rohn calls them. What would I have, do, or be if I had $10 million? And before I get to TMI, Tim Ferriss says it could be 10 million, it could be a million, it can be however much money you need to get what you want. And one thing he talks about is target monthly income, which is acronymed TMI, which then you do TMD, which is TDI, target daily income. And it's actually something I started just recently, like today, after I finished these questions, I actually did my own TMI, which after this podcast, I'll then continue doing my own personal development. But basically says, like, let's say you wanted 10 million. Well, then you will then work forward to see how you can achieve those 10 million, right? And he says, if you break it down to a monthly, then a daily, and you see how much money exactly you need to
Make
in half. He says it's much more feasible to get there.
Yeah.
And I didn't know much about it till now that I'm doing my own just off of this.
I don't know if I had seen, because who said this? Gary Vee?
Tim Ferriss.
Tim Ferriss. I don't know if I had seen them, post it, or if I was introduced to it by them, but for sure there was one like real estate video that I watched on YouTube not too long ago, where the guy says, I make like, let's say $240 a day without moving a finger, and he breaks it down because he's got like a rental property or two that net him $240 a day. But yeah, like when I watched, I didn't finish watching it all, but when I got to that part, I did come to the realization that it's a lot more. It seems a lot more doable. It kind of puts you in a better place, thinking how much money do you need a day,
Right.
and then take the steps to get there. But that's definitely that kind of goes in hand with I think something that I heard Ty Lopez say, and he doesn't necessarily say like how much money do you need a day, but he'll say like, you want to make $1 million, like how are you gonna get there? By making $500,000. How are you gonna get there? By making $250,000. And it kind of breaks it down to
Basically, he brings it down.
Make your first $100, and that's how you'll make your next 500, and then you'll make 1,000. So yeah, it's all about kind of scaling it down to a more feasible scale.
Because then it makes sense to not be overwhelmed by, oh my God, I'm so far away from $1 million. It's like, well, hold on.
Yeah.
How much do you need today to get there? And I'm still working on that myself because, like I said, I'm allocating a lot of capital. That's the word I'm gonna use now. Is I'm allocating a lot of capital. So it's all for now. It's all about allocating it right. Because now that I have the investing and I have that compounding, that it's growing slowly but surely.
Yeah.
It's always just the initial movement and then being consistent. Hopefully that investing is my most consistent thing, my most consistent venture of being consistently inconsistent.
Yeah.
So what do you? we don't know our target monthly because this is new information. So
Yeah.
let's say you had $10 million. What would you have? You can, and even if you put only, or if you give one answer, what would you have? What would you do? What would you be? Instead of or be, what would you be? Because 10 million right now is a lot of money.
Yeah, I kind of put this into the same like bowl of questions as like, what would you do if you won the lottery? And
Okay.
I've been asked that
That's fair.
before. I've been asked that before, and my answer is always, um, I'd buy a house, and I'm not even like an extravagant house, just a house
You're
of
gonna go Warren Buffett.
yeah, like a house of a house of my own, like maybe like this is me splurging like a $200,000 home,
That's fair.
like something like that,
Yeah.
starting a business and then like investing another portion of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never really gone so much into detail to give specific like numbers, but
Yeah. Right. Right.
that's where
Yeah.
it would go. Buy one house, start a business, or maybe more property,
Yeah.
like in real estate investments, and then like invest the rest, like put it into the market, type like a retirement account or something, something where it'll be safe. Have that portion that I can rely on later
Right.
in life. So
Yeah. Man, my only issue for myself with having a concept of $10 million is that I do know where it would be allocated, and it sounds great, but at least for now, and I'll just say for now, is that it's too far away from me. Like I'd have to break it down more. Like 10 million is too much for me
yeah,
because I know exactly. Like I said, I know. Okay, let me break. I'll break it down. I would first. My parents would retire. That they'd be done. They'd be set for life. And I already done, like I said, I've already done their math for their retirement, so it's not a lot. I'll still have almost $9 million in my bank account. Like
right.
knowing how much our household uses right now, right? So they'd be set for life. My mom would get her dream home, and for that home, it wouldn't. Price doesn't matter. Now, of course, it's not even $9 million, $9 million, right?
$9 million home.
But I know she has ideas for a dream home, so that would be the home, right?
Yeah.
For me, I'd probably go the same route for myself as my own home. Now, what I might do is buy two $100,000 homes, one here and one somewhere else, California or something.
Yeah.
That might be something I do. Like, I think I said it on the podcast where it's Sutter, like, and they're probably cheaper there too. Like, I mean, just given the region, it's rural, for the most part.
Yeah.
Tons of land. Oh, dude, I want to go back.
Dude, I saw a picture. Just a quick side note. I saw
Yeah.
a picture today of like a student, recent graduate. Her parents are like migrant workers out there in California.
Cool.
So she went and took a picture in like her cap and gown and everything on the field, but it just looks so beautiful. Like I forgot what the field was of, but it's just green.
Yeah.
And then right behind her you see the mountains and stuff. I was like, damn.
So awesome.
Yeah.
So awesome. So like, okay, so first thing's my parents' retirement, my mom's dream home, my homes, because like I said, I'd probably do like the $100,000 per home, one here, one out. Now I still don't know. This is a struggle with me as far as owning a business. What I would do is continue the podcast and everything here in my my home base, and still work. I would still work at 9 Round. I would then give you money to start a business. I would give Eddie to maneuver his business. Now, of course, with agreement, as far as like terms and anything like that, right? But still, I would give Eddie $1 million. I'd give you some, depending on what you're looking for. Because Eddie, I know how much we need, for what we're trying to do. But basically, reinvesting into business while I'm still doing what I'm doing. Like that would be the ideal thing, for me.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I've thought of, for a way, and this is kind of something that Marcus Lemonis like sparked in my brain. Buying like ownership in like small businesses, like
Basically, yeah.
I'd
Alright,
like to like I'd like to do that, but there comes a point to where you're spread too thin. So I'd like to find a happy medium between the business and the people, running it, the business running itself, and me just kind of having skin in the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe like a not necessarily a silent partner, but I just kind of want to put some money down and very vaguely oversee, but have the business, do it on its own, or have
Right.
the people run it on
Basically,
its own.
basically let it
Me
run.
not
Yeah.
having to worry about it,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
But I would like to be involved, so
Right, at
I'd
some
have
point.
to find. Yeah, but if I'm too
Well, you say
involved, or if
some of the,
it's
you
too
like you said,
many
finding the
businesses.
perfect medium for your case,
Yeah.
where you don't want to be caught up in a full-time management position.
Yes.
More of like a board member monthly meeting
Yeah.
type thing, maybe.
Where was this from? Was it Rich Dad Poor Dad? Or something along the lines of, if you end up like working there, then you don't own the business. You're like an employee.
Rich Dad
something
Poor
like
Dad.
that.
Yeah, it's that guy Robert Kiyosaki, I think his
Mhm.
name. Yeah, he says that because even in that video that I mentioned maybe 2 weeks ago or so, he talked about the same thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd reinvest into you, like you and Eddie, for sure. I'd still work a 9 round, and I mean, I said I like it enough, like going back to the Go Giver, the connector. That's what I do. That's just what I do. Then of course all my closest younger cousins, their college would be paid for. That's easy. And I would then tell the parents that they're gonna move away from. They're gonna. My condition is that they move away from home. They learn how to live on their own. That'd be my condition. And if they need help, then yeah, we go visit, calm them down, and then keep them growing. That'd be the main thing. The key thing is growing.
Yeah.
For me, right now the continued lame excuse is that school's expensive, so I'm staying home, and that to me that's just a lame excuse. That's just lame, and I don't even call it an excuse. It's just a lame statement for me. There's so much reward, and I think I've mentioned this slightly, especially towards the beginning of this podcast series, or this embarkment, of learning how to live. At least that's what I got the most out of it. I got that, and all my business classes is what I got the most out of. And some specific professors, that really just ingrained a lot of information in me that I keep and use to this day. Stuff like that. But yeah, that probably my only condition for my cousins was that they're gonna move away from home. They need something, some type of consoling. Call. We'll go, or I'll go myself.
Yeah.
Cause that'd be, like I said, that'd be my own condition. And I'd still have what, like $5 million to spare. Like with all that stuff that I want to invest in. Like yeah. And I guess another chunk would be to education. That's what I want to do here. That's what I'm trying to do with this podcast, and bring in valuable information so that people believe in the cause. I bring enough value to where, like, yeah, this guy's serious. This guy knows, at least he's on his way to knowing what he's talking about. Developing some type of a clout, as the word we've been using quite often lately, more than if it's a hell yeah, then if it's not a hell yeah, don't do it at all. The next one's clout.
There's no clout. Don't do it.
Yeah, or if it's not gonna give you clout, don't do it. So there's that, and like I said, helping, and that's, I guess, thinking about it now, that's a branch that I don't know how I would do it, because some families need it, and some families just need help allocating it, money. And maybe, oh man, this is interesting. Maybe like for families who claim they need it, and going in to help them see, to see if, okay, do you what, and this would get really personal. But
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm
That's
about,
exactly what I was thinking. But I don't know if you're going the same exact direction, but as far as if they think they need it, like sitting down and really laying everything out and say, do you really need it, or do you kind of
Right.
need to allocate
Mhm.
differently?
Yep. And so let's say, finding one of those, and then also, because one thing that I do truly believe in is the usage of language, which is what Tony Robbins talks about. So I then hear them talking, and like, okay, we also need to work on that, and that's, oh man, climbing an extra step farther is family development, not just personal development. Because I don't know anybody who's doing like a family development. Everybody goes to a psychiatrist and they give you pills. That's crap. That's my opinion. Man, that's something to ponder on. See, like, oh man, I'm so glad I wrote these questions down because like this is what I'm talking about as far as okay, in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years. You know, Jim Rohn says, "What are your dreams in 3 years?" Like looking back on this episode in 3 years, like who freaking knows? I mean, we've talked about that. We've talked about the future, blah blah blah. How we're excited. We know that everybody listening knows that. You know, from here to I think we've had from like Australia and we have some other listeners from other places that hopefully when they catch this, they keep climbing on to listening week after week. Anyways, but yeah, $10 million is a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
It's a lot of money now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Imagine when we get there, it's like, yeah.
Right. Yeah, because it's like we've accomplished it, and that'd be so interesting. You know, that to me that's like the sad part. I think I said a sad part last week too, but the sad part talking about this $10 million question is that like when we get there, when we achieve our goals, and then the people who are still not, maybe they want to, but either again they're just not, they haven't found the right incentives to do it. Like one thing my mom brought up this week, she said something along the lines of, I don't know if it had to do with sales or customer interaction. Either way, she's like, why can't I do it like this? And I said, because you're human, Mom. You need incentive. She's like, but I shouldn't. Because she was, and I was raised kind of the same way. But I now understand that you, as a human being, if you can understand that simple statement of being a human being, that you, no matter what, you need some type of incentive. Whether it's instant gratification, which you get that mental, like your actual physiology, your mental state, chemical balances in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's that, or then an actual incentive. Okay, I'm gonna make $100 today, and that's your incentive to get whatever X is done. And so she said, "Well, why can't I just do it?" I'm like, "Cause
Just human nature.
Doesn't work, Mom." I'm like, yeah, and that's why I told him like it doesn't work like that. I'm like, you need to find something strong enough to get that done. Cause I'm like, as much as you want to do it, it's not being executed, and I'm telling you why. And she walked in when I was rewatching that RPM video by Tony Robbins. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you walked in at a perfect time because I'm in my zone of like that mindset of incentives and of encompassing emotion with physicality. And then for me is, like I said, as a middle manager, that's what I call myself, middle manager. Working up and down the chain of whoever you're involved with, whether it's in job, in a household, with colleagues, me and Brian and Eddie, anything like that. You have to have enough incentive to do it. And now, I know I'm working on it as far as making sure I have a good incentive. Jim, this is one thing I didn't talk about or I didn't think about before, was Jim Rohn says your consequences need to be real consequences. And now I'm consciously thinking about it whenever I'm making a decision. And I'm like, do I have a strong enough consequence? No. Okay, what can I do to make it to where I execute it? And I still haven't developed enough consequences. But honestly, also, it's because I'm just everywhere right now. Like, the main consequence is time. If like this morning I got up early, and then I got some stuff done, but I had a goal to finish these questions in the morning. Mm-hmm. And also because I was supposed to have the afternoon off from work. So like, I'll just finish with Luis. We'll have some lunch, get some grub. I'll come home. I'll be able to finish. I'll be really fine tuned for the podcast. And then I get called saying, "Hey, can you cover for 3 hours?" And I said, and I thought about it. And I was like, yes, but I had to leave on time today because of the podcast. I still need some priming to get ready for today, right? I still need some priming. I know that, especially for something like this where we're gonna go a couple hours, and talk about some. What I hoped at the beginning was valuable information. Now I'm hoping it is as valuable as I'm hearing it as we're conversing and coming up with either new ideas as we say them out loud or stuff that we haven't talked about yet. Right. But anyways, going back to just the root of incentive of time. That's the base, and that's my consequence right now. Is that if I don't do stuff when I say I need to do it, then when last minute things come up, then I have to then rearrange to make sure I then get the questions done. I still train Luis. I still feed him. Get to work, get out of work on time. assuming that no one calls in or anything like that, which we actually had a call in. So I had to figure that out in a matter of a couple of minutes. And luckily it worked out. We're here recording, obviously, but um, stuff like that, where it's like, again, consequence of time. It's a big deal for me, at least. It takes a big role right
And
now.
I was gonna say, like, I feel like that should be everybody's ultimate consequence, because none of us can get that back.
Yeah, yeah, and for me, because see, like, it's interesting because it's the same thing for me, and I'm still building on the concept of making sure you're maximizing your time. But like, were the simple statements like that, like what you just said, the you can't get time back, and it's so cliche. And I tell people this all the time, where like I say a lot of cliches, but it's because I believe in them. And like in this, for the concept of time, like people are like, yeah, I know I'm running out of time. Well, then use it, right? And then they lose it, and then that's it. And they're like, ah, should have done this, should have done that, right? So
Yeah.
then, so then, it's like, why isn't and that because it's a very basic question. Like my mom says, why can't I do this? And my question is like, why can't people, like you say, why can't citizens, human beings, have enough incentive with the consequence of time? And I don't know the answer, but it's for some people it's not enough. For whatever reason, whatever's in their chemical balances in their brain, however they've been raised or anything like that, where the consequence of time is not enough, which is interesting, but that's what happens. Quick example about a consequence. There's a client, and I feel bad because she doesn't go to 9 round anymore. I know at one point she got super busy with work, and then she just didn't go back, and she hasn't been back. But hold on, let me write this down. When she started working out, because she was being pretty consistent, 4 or 5 times a week, for about a month, before she got busy, and some sales stuff happened with her work, and she just got busy. Um, and I was like, she's like, man, like I hate, like she didn't hate working out, but she dreaded working out, and she says sometimes, or at the time, she said that she would even leave her house to go work out, and sometimes she would turn back. Like it was,
Damn.
yeah, it was enough to where the dread of working out, the dread of the hurt, was enough to make her be almost there and drive back home, wherever she did. I don't know. I mean, I don't know which city or anything.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. And by this time, I was developing the consequences, but not enough. But I did ask. I said, well, I did ask, well, why'd you start working out? Because by then I had at least started like developing the whys. So I was like, well then, why? And then she's like, well, she wants to be healthy and this and that. And then because throughout substituting, I realized how important parents are, and I then said, well, what about your kids? And she said to me, she's like, well, funny you say that. She's like, my son says I need to get into shape. And I said, well, let that be your let that be your reasoning to come in 4 or 5 times a week, 6 times a week if you can, as many times as you can. That's my thing. And she's like, yeah, but you could hear in her voice though, like it just wasn't enough. And I didn't pry anymore, but it's the same thing, bro. Like it's interesting to me because I've heard it, and I don't know. I will eventually figure it out. Like everything else that we talk about, it just takes time to more research, more finding real consequences for her to realize. I hope it doesn't take till she gets sick. I mean, it's sad to say, but it's the truth.
Yep.
Getting sick, going to the doctor saying you need to go on this extreme diet because you're like at red, you're close to beep, straight line, that you don't have any more time.
Right.
And if you don't start this now, you're gonna die. Going back to Gary V, dying.
Yeah.
And I didn't even mean to get that deep, but it's a good example of the consequence
It's
of
the
having
ultimate consequence.
yeah, exactly, of having a consequence. And I'm like, and then what? I'm like, how? And I think her son, her oldest son, was like maybe 7, not younger. And she had 2 other little ones, and then the son, right? That was like 7 or younger. And I think one of them was basically a newborn, a few months old, maybe. And I said, for me, because at the time I still didn't understand. I'm like, how can you not want to work? I'm like, think about your children. Like, just if you need some fire, And like I said, you hear in her voice though, it just wasn't enough. And obviously, I mean, she's not there anymore. It didn't take but a couple of months, maybe a couple of months for her to fall off the train.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Some of it has to do with work, but still, And one thing that I have started developing this week because of what I've realized, especially because I will be honest, on Friday we played a party, and some of the colleagues that we know from high school, I got to see them, and some of them I hadn't seen since 7 years ago, since we graduated, and we were there and like, hey man, you're looking good and this and that, and I'm like, oh thank you. I got some compliments, which is cool. It was for that moment I let those compliments soak in because I needed just some positive feedback. I've talked about that where you need positive and you need negative feedback, and I get that from everybody. Tony Robbins, all those guys. You need both, right? Jim Rohn talks about it too. And I said, hey man, thanks. And so that happened, and then at night after we were done, I it stuck with me. But then I started thinking, right? I started pondering those statements, and I was like, okay, what did it take me? And it took me a year. It's taken me a year and a half to get where I'm at now. Now, basically, my only concentration is my blood. I'd like to see my blood like just optimal. My body's optimal. Like everything. As far as my physicality, it's. And I was talking actually to Danny the other day about how like when right around the middle of my college career, that I was working out heavily. I was in shape. I was like, man, I feel like I feel and I think I'm in better shape than I was in high school. And today, I think I'm in better shape than I was then and in high school put together. Like, just optimal because most of it has to do with diet, but just, I don't know, just getting after it, right? Now, again, going back to the root is like, okay, what did it take me and how much time did it take me? It took me a lot of time.
Yeah.
So, the major topic and question that I have is like, how can how can a system be devised for the 9 to 5 worker? Because I think I know some of the answer, because the majority is gonna be the diet. So if you're in a immobile situation where you're behind a desk majority of your day, 5 days a week, then you need to eat that much more healthier,
Yep.
and then your weekends need to be active. You're tired, but you need to get stuff done. Even if getting stuff done means taking your son out or your kids out or you and your husband going out for the day or the evening or doing something, right? And I have to say that means you work out hard on the weekends, right? Saturday and Sunday. If those are your only days off that you are not cooped up at work, then you do that. So I think those are the general answers. I think we can get more specific than that, but still, I think it's a very important thing that can be figured out because people are looking for specifics. So that's for sure a tale that I'm looking into. Because even yesterday when we were talking, they brought up the life coaching and dietitian stuff because of the information that I brought up, and I'm like, yeah. And then I was like, but it's taking me a year and a half of doing all these things. And then, but that's also what made me click was like, okay, these people, they have regular jobs. What can be done to facilitate the 9 to 5 worker? And like I said, I know the general answer, but then adding to that was giving specifics to that too, because like not yesterday, Saturday, Friday. One of the clients that I talked to yesterday, I saw her Friday, and there was a certain round where it was more flexible. It was like a freestyle round or something, and she asked me what to do, and it's like, well, do everything, right? But see, that's such a general statement that after I said it, I'm like, dude, I ended up giving her something specific.
Right.
I'm like, so then facilitating to the 9 to 5, giving specifics, maybe what's worked for me, that they can do over time. And
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of the time, like, that's what it comes down to. Like, anybody in general, like, people will, well, not that they will specifically, like, succeed, but people sometimes need specifics because either they're lazy about something or they just don't know. But facilitating by making things specific, I think is excuse me, like the fastest route to succeeding in whatever it is. Like people who diet and stuff like that, I think they really stick to it when you tell them exactly what to eat and how to make it.
right.
And that's why now there's all these meal plans where they'll send you the food already either made or they send you the exact ingredients that you need. And I mean, it's just like I said, I don't know if it's out of laziness or lack of knowledge, but it's kind of what works, and that's what's given all of these for example, the meal planning services.
Yeah.
It's given them that opportunity.
Yeah.
because I've seen from like big, big businesses advertising on TV to smaller businesses.
Or even local now. You hear them
Yeah,
on the radio. I hear them on the radio.
yeah, where
Interestingly.
they're just promoting on like social media and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But we have kind of given them that opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and see, like, there's some 'cause that same client. She's like, "Well, is there a way that I can just have it done for me?" So the convenience, right?
Yep.
And like, I honestly, I didn't at the time because I was like dead, falling, dead beat. My brain was just dead. So I didn't even think about promoting like, or maybe helping out, some type of business, like some type of meal plan. Because there's at least two or three here in the McAllen area alone, and my only thing is that half of those you're being underfed. That's my only contradiction, which is going back to the opposite question. That's my thing, because like, it depending on what the goals are. That's another thing is goals. What
And,
results do you
and
want?
I would hope that these businesses are doing that, some type of assessment to where you want to be and what you need to get there, and not just using like one template for everybody.
Because so far it seems like that's what it is. Because of the menus that I've seen, the standard, 6 to 8 ounces of meat, anything over that, it's extra, and it's like okay, but these people they think they're gonna be okay because they're eating exactly what you're telling them to eat.
Yeah.
And the facilitating what we're talking about is like going the extra step. Now maybe okay, going to well like that number 6, the employers, just bring up having our own businesses. Maybe that's something that I can do, or something that somebody that's listening. I mean, it's out there. It's out for you out for the taking, but taking it to a level where you can facilitate individuals. Because another argument that I've come up with this weekend is that I'm learning 95% so far of the stuff that I'm working on, especially through this team workout, is that everything given to a team, it's still gonna result. No, that's the way to say it. Everybody's case is different, and the same goes for dieting and nutrition. The exercise is generally the same, and the thing about exercise is more details of like the movement, the movement, so you don't get hurt. That's my thing. But as far as the eating, and we're talking about facilitating to those needs, because like I said, my personal opinion is that a lot of people are getting underfed, so their body's storing more fat than it wants. Because if you would feed it, let's say a bowl of salad with 10 ounces of chicken, and then some kale, broccoli, carrots, green beans, stuff like that, and you're full at the end of the meal, your body is going to be satisfied and it's going to let go of the waste. It's going to do that. Like I told people, like, because even yesterday we still had to. This weekend was the halfway mark of our team challenge, and I've actually had one client, she gained 5 pounds, and I do think because she's been sticking decent to the diet, she's lost fat but she's gained muscle, and that's what the diet consists of. That's what I'm okay with that, because I know her she went down like in inches, like she went down, right? And even she said, like, her husband says, and like other people saying, like, hey, like you look, but she's like, but I gained 5 pounds. I'm like, see, the poundage doesn't matter anymore. And that's my goal. I'm like, because right now it's taking me, okay, last year I lost 25 pounds. Right, for these past 6 months, dude, 6 months straight, 203. I have not moved. I only move, of course, after a meal.
Right.
But when I do it periodically, every so often, I'm at 203, 203, 203, 203, 203, and because I sometimes veer off the slow carb, but the point of slow carb is to retain muscle, and you're gonna keep the same weight, and in her case lose weight. Now in her case, she'd have to limit how much she's eating. I eat as much as I want. If I like right now, like as of right now, I've burned approximately 3,600 calories. I'm gonna eat 3,600 calories of food today. By the time I'm done, and I haven't eaten dinner yet, and it goes past my fasting time. But today I'm gonna eat because I'm freaking hungry. Whatever. But stuff like that. So going back to the root of facilitating, and then wondering what these meal planners are doing for people, doing just enough to make a profit. Which I think for the most part for now, because that type of industry is new, They do it because they care. They see that there's a market there, which I get. But like I said, when I get to work with his clients individually through an outlet at 9 Round, and then I get feedback that's way more than hearing people complain.
Yeah.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, or at the end of the cycle, whatever, it don't matter. Oh man, as much as I want to continue, because we still have like 8 more questions to go, we can continue next week. This would be a good stopping point.
Yeah, we could.
We can continue this, and maybe we can get some answers from Eddie. See if he can.
So far, I mean, it's been good questions. So why be greedy and get through all of them?
Well, and going back to stuff that I brought up, and I think you agreed, and because I heard it from a podcast, I'm pretty sure it's 210, where is it not Ralph Waldo Emerson? Who's another author? Another
Was it Hemingway?
Hemingway talks about not using all your material, not just like going through everything because you feel like you had to complete something.
Yep.
And I think this is a great example of where we're gonna stop.
That's exactly what I was thinking when you were talking about having more. It's like, well, it's not a bad thing that we do.
Yeah. And I guess my scare every week is that not having enough content or questions. But since I've tried to think of a way to, in a sense, pivot this podcast, because sometimes we don't have enough content, and frankly today I just stuck with having a bunch of questions, but also questions that I knew that as 25-year-old millennials we could answer. And then obviously number six, the employees, us as employees, we were able to still transition that. I didn't think it was gonna work, ended up working because it's not on the board. You're not seeing it. I just read it out loud, and you were able to go along with us, or go along with me. So we'll stop here for everybody listening. I hope you guys got out of it one thing. If you guys got one thing out of this past close to 2 hours, maybe just under an hour and 55 minutes or so, by the time the edit's done, as far as spacing. If you guys got at least one thing out of it, that's my goal. Like I said, 5%. So an hour and 55 times 5%. That's what I hope you get out of it. And we'll close it there. Brian, if you want to give your social media.
Yeah, you can go ahead and
Info.
follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Brian Alejandro _. It's BRYANALEJANDRO _. Also, if you're interested in any Excel doing, look me up on Fiverr, FIVERR.com. Just search Brian Alejandro and look for my gigs.
Look for his gigs. Contact him. Get him. Just send him a direct message too.
Actually, yeah, you could just do that and let me know what you need to do, and maybe we can work something out that's not on there.
On Fiverr, yeah. If the convenience is Instagram, not Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, anything like that, then do that. My thing is always just get in contact. Any outlet. Like I always stress, email us, email me, message me, talk to me. I'm always curious to see what's going on. Like I said, I have an open door policy right now, 24 hours a day for everyone. And I'll stress again that, in 5 years that might not, or that more than likely won't be the case. And I'm already calling it now. Let it be known these past few podcasts that I've been saying this, that it's like, things are changing, things are happening, the development's continuing. My mind is working, constantly. So, if you want to contact me or find me, my social media, Instagram and Twitter is AndyWalker_lead. Then my Facebook is the facebook.com/AndyWalkerLeads. Like that page. Then from there you can probably find my personal page too. I'm pretty sure that when you search it up, it'll come together. My Snapchat, if you want to see what I'm doing on a daily basis, is Andy Walker Lead without an S. Just Andy Walker Lead. You can get me on there. Like I said, sometimes things happen at sporadic times, and you'll get to join in on the fun, even if it's through video, through some sort of virtual interaction. So you can do that. Get back to us. I always post the emails. I post all this stuff on the show notes. And really, that's why even on the show notes, if you notice, I put all of our handles and emails first, and then I put the topics or whatever the subject lines will be after. Frankly, I'm I move pretty fast as far as like content in my brain. So the faster you get in contact with me, that's what's gonna happen. Also, in my opinion, I also honestly think not enough or not people don't really read subject content. That's my opinion. I don't know. If I'm wrong, well, let me know. You can tell me so I can move it. For sure, when I then post it on social when I post the podcast on social media, I only put the subject matter on there and that's it. But anyways, it was awesome. A lot of good points. I feel relieved and like ready for the next podcast because it's gonna be awesome. Hopefully, we'll get back with Eddie this coming week. And for now, we'll sign off and we'll see you guys out and about.